Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. Marcus stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out at the city skyline shrouded in twilight in the distance, mindlessly twirling his wedding ring in his hand. His wife Isabella's request for a marriage pause 3 days earlier still echoed in his mind. That calm Sunday morning, when Isabella said the words in her usual calm tone, Marcus' world seemed to lose its center of gravity for a moment. "I needed time and space to think," Isabella said. "It's not a breakup, it's just a pause." There was a hint of detachment in her voice that Marcus had never heard before. "I think we both need some alone time to organize our thoughts." Marcus just nodded then. They'd been married for 5 years, and he knew Isabella's character all too well. When she made a decision, any argument was futile. He chose to believe it was just a temporary disturbance caused by the stress of his job. After all, Isabella does have an unusually heavy investment banking program these days. "I'll be living in an apartment downtown," Isabella added, "and I'll be back when I figure it out." Her eyes wandered as she said this, never meeting Marcus' gaze. But Marcus at the time didn't notice anything unusual about this detail. For the next 2 days, Marcus immersed himself in his work, trying to paralyze himself with busyness. Until his mother, Lisa, called with a hint of unease in her voice. "Honey, have you seen Isabella's Instagram lately?" Marcus froze. Neither he nor Isabella are big social media users, but Isabella does share the occasional photo on Instagram. He opened the app and was greeted by a photo that took his breath away for an instant. Turquoise blue water, golden sand, and Isabella's bright smile. The location of the photo is labeled Cabo San Lucas, and the photographer is apparently the man who is putting his arm around her shoulder, Nathan. Nathan. The name was like a sharp dagger that instantly tore into Marcus' heart. He knew the name all too well, Isabella's college boyfriend, the ex who was supposedly just a friend. Now, when Marcus recalls Isabella's recent antics, frequent overtime, mysterious weekend meetings, and video calls always facing the wall, everything has a terrifying explanation. Suspension is just a mild excuse, a decent cover. And he, like a fool, believed the clumsy lie. Marcus's fingers rested on the photo. The face he'd loved for 5 years seemed so foreign at the moment. Isabella was so happy in the picture, with a heartfelt joy that he had never seen in her face lately. Marcus turns off his cell phone and walks over to the liquor cabinet. He rarely touched alcohol on a regular basis, but at the moment he needed something to numb the pain that was tearing through him. His hands shook as he poured the whiskey, spilling some of the amber-colored liquid on the countertop. He drank it all in one gulp, the spicy alcohol burning down his throat but unable to burn away the chill in his heart. He began to remember bits and pieces of the last few months. Isabella's tired expression when she pushed that she had to prepare for the defense of her project now seems to be nothing more than exhaustion from having to make up a lie. The old photo she stumbled across when she said she was going to organize her check room was probably the trigger to reconnect with Nathan. Even her absent-mindedness at their last dinner 2 months ago, when she was probably already planning this pause. As the night wore on, Marcus stood in his empty living room, feeling the sharp pain of betrayal. Their marriage photo hangs on the wall, the two of them smiling in the frame, and that image seems ironic as hell now. He remembered every "I love you" Isabella had ever said, the future they had planned together, the promises he thought would last a lifetime. It all comes to naught in this instant. The sound of his cell phone vibrating interrupted his thoughts. It was a message from Isabella. "I think I'm thinking more clearly. We'll talk it over when I get back." Marcus stared at the message and suddenly felt a moment of clarity like no other. He didn't need to wait for her to come back to talk it over. He'd seen it clearly enough. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a whim. It was a calculated betrayal. Marcus turned off his cell phone and looked out the window into the night, the pain in his heart gradually congealing into a cold resolve. He knows that from this moment on, their marriage is over, and he's going to make it an ending that Isabella will never forget. It was drizzling the day Isabella returned. Marcus was in his study working on papers when she dragged her suitcase into the house. He heard a noise coming from the porch, but did not rise to meet him as usual. The footsteps came closer and closer, finally stopping at the door of the study. "I'm back," Isabella said with a hint of tentativeness in her voice. "Let's talk?" Marcus slowly raised his head. his gaze like ice. Talk about what? Talking about how nice the sun is in Cabo San Lucas or how warm Nathan's arms are. Isabella's face instantly loses its blood color. She opened her mouth, but didn't speak immediately. After a moment of silence, she straightened her back. Now that you already know, I'll be blunt. Yes, Nathan and I are together. It's not impromptu. We've been in contact for months. So pause is your cover? Marcus's voice held a sting of sarcasm. Isabella is surprisingly composed. We agreed to a timeout, which means the rules have changed. I'm not betraying you. I'm just looking for what I really want in life. The upside-down comment made Marcus almost laugh out loud. You call that no betrayal? Cuddling with someone else while still wearing my ring? You've always done this. Isabella suddenly raised her voice, controlling me with moral abductions. Our marriage has been in trouble for a long time. You're too authoritarian and controlling. You're the one who drove me to this point. Marcus looked quietly at the strange woman in front of him. 5 years of marriage seemed to vanish in this moment, replaced by a calculating actor. Very well, he said finally. Since you put it that way, let's get a divorce. Isabella didn't seem to expect him to be so quick to file for divorce. She bit her lip. Fine. Then we'll hire a lawyer to negotiate the terms. I'm asking for reasonable alimony and half of this house. Alimony? Marcus sneered. On your good deed with Nathan? Don't threaten me, Marcus. Isabella's voice colored with anger. I can prove that you exercised mind control over me during the marriage. If you don't cooperate, I'll show everyone what kind of husband you are. Marcus didn't respond, just opened his computer and pulled up a folder. You mean these photos? He turned the screen so Isabella could see the intimate photos taken in Cabo San Lucas, or these text message logs. I have proof of every step you took in planning this. Isabella's face turned pale. She obviously didn't realize Marcus already had so much evidence. You investigated me? Her voice trembled with anger. How dare you investigate me? That makes you uncomfortable? Marcus stood up. What is this compared to your betrayal? Isabella took a step back. You can't do this to me. What did I do to you? Marcus' voice was frighteningly calm. I'm just gathering evidence. As for your beautiful love with Nathan, soon everyone will know the truth. You threaten me? Isabella tried to stay strong, but her voice was already starting to shake. No, I'm just telling you what happens next. Marcus walked toward the door. Now, please leave my house. Your lawyer can contact mine directly. Isabella stood still as if she wanted to say something, but ultimately said nothing. As she turned to leave, Marcus noticed that her hands were shaking. When the footsteps died down, Marcus turned on his cell phone and dialed the private investigator. Begin the plan we discussed. He knew that this was only the beginning. Isabella thought she could get away with it all, and even be compensated for it. But she was wrong. Marcus will make her realize how costly betrayal really is. It's late at night and Marcus is standing at the window, looking out at the city lights. He remembered his naive self who believed in love, the fool who would have given everything for Isabella. But that man is dead, dead by the blade of betrayal. Right now, he was focused on one thing, making the betrayer pay the price he deserved. The rain outside was getting heavier and heavier, but Marcus felt a strange calm. He knew that the real battle had just begun. Isabella and Nathan will soon realize that they messed with the wrong person. Marcus didn't move as he looked at the file being downloaded on his phone. It was a detailed investigative report on Nathan's past. The gears of revenge have begun to turn. The report sent by the private investigator brought a long overdue smile to Marcus' face. Nathan's past is like a carefully woven lie, and now it's time to uproot the web. Are you sure this information is verified? Marcus asked from a secluded cafe. The detective nodded. Every document is backed up by evidence. Nathan has outstanding fraud charges in 3 different states, and his victims are mainly wealthy single women. His modus operandi was simple: falsely claim to be an executive at a well-known investment firm and use high returns as bait to scam investments. Marcus closed the folder. Good. Time to contact the victim. For the next week, Marcus looked like he was playing a precise game of chess. He first contacted Nathan's former victims anonymously and provided them with legal assistance. When the first lawsuit papers are served on Nathan, Isabella has no idea of the coming storm. Meanwhile, Marcus begins to execute the second step of the plan. He had evidence that Isabella had repeatedly used company resources to facilitate Nathan's investment projects. An anonymous email, accompanied by detailed evidence, was sent to the investment bank's compliance department. "Ms. Isabella, please come to my office." Isabella's work was interrupted one Wednesday morning by a call from the compliance officer. 2 hours later, carrying a cardboard box with her personal belongings, she left the company where she had worked for 7 years under the watchful eye of security guards. "How could you do this to me?" Isabella's angry phone call came later that night. "You know how much I've worked for this job?" Marcus calmly replied, "Me? I'm just following company rules and reporting violations. It's your betrayal of your marriage that needs more explanation than that, isn't it?" There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. "You won't get away with this. Nathan and I are getting married soon, and when we do—" "Oh, speaking of Nathan," Marcus interrupted her, "have you been in contact with him lately?" Isabella's voice suddenly became wary. "What do you mean?" "Nothing, just suggesting you check the news." Marcus hung up the phone and turned on the TV. Sure enough, the local news is reporting on a major investment scam, and Nathan's picture is listed. Isabella was visibly distracted at the divorce hearing the next day. Her attorneys made various claims, all of which were rejected by Marcus' attorneys with hard evidence. The look on the judge's face when evidence of Isabella's affair and professional misconduct was presented to the court said it all. Considering the evidence, the court dismisses the defense's claims for alimony and property division. The judge announced. Isabella slumps in her chair, while Marcus just silently gathers his papers. Walking out of the courtroom, Isabella stops Marcus. "You won. Are you satisfied?" Marcus looked at her haggard face with no inner turmoil. "It's not about winning or losing, Isabella. It's about karma. You ruined everything for me." Isabella whimpered. "No," Marcus turned away. "You chose to ruin everything. I just let the truth come out." Back home, Marcus received another report. Nathan absconds immediately after being indicted, leaving Isabella to face the storm alone. With bank accounts frozen and credit cards canceled, Isabella's proud network of contacts is rapidly crumbling. Marcus stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows and watched the sun set. He thought about their wedding, about every lie Isabella had ever told. Now she is tasting the bitter fruit of betrayal. But that's not enough. Not by a long shot. He picked up his cell phone and dialed a number. Those interviews scheduled can begin. Soon Isabella and Nathan's story will be a hot topic on all major social media outlets, and their immoral behavior will be made public. This wasn't simply retaliation. It was an elaborate trial. Marcus wants everyone to remember how heavy the price of betrayal can be. He looked at Isabella's latest social media updates on his phone sheet, just deleted all Nathan-related photos, and her avatar had changed to one of darkness. As night fell, Marcus poured himself a glass of red wine. Outside the window, the city lights were on, and he knew that somewhere in the darkness Isabella was suffering the loss of everything. It was exactly the result he wanted, a perfect revenge. "To the truth," he said softly, raising his glass. The red wine in the glass took on a bleeding hue in the light, like the anger that was gradually subsiding in his mind. The first stage of revenge is complete, but this game is far from over. Marcus knows that true victory lies not only in destroying the opponent's present, but also in severing their future. Another victim has come forward to accuse Nathan of fraud. Marcus turns off the TV and looks out the window at the sun. 3 months on, his carefully orchestrated storm of public opinion is taking effect. Isabella and Nathan's scandal has become the talk of the business world at tea time, a modern parable of betrayal and fraud. The phone vibrated. A news tweet. Former manager of well-known investment bank suspected of assisting her boyfriend in committing investment fraud. The accompanying photo shows Isabella leaving the courtroom with her face covered. The story would continue to fester on social media, and Marcus knew that Isabella's career was beyond repair. "Marcus," the gentle voice interrupted his thoughts. Clara walked into the office with 2 cups of coffee. "You're still reading all this news." Clara is the new legal counselor at the firm, gentle and understanding. Over the past month, she's grown to be a warm light in Marcus' life. "I'm just making sure the plan's coming together." Marcus took the coffee, his fingertips inadvertently touching Clara's hand. Clara sat down across from him. You know what? Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying the other person, but living a better life. Marcus looked up at her. Are you saying I went too far? No, Clara shook her head. I'm saying that maybe it's time to let go of the past and start a new chapter. You've proven yourself and made them pay. Marcus is silent for a moment. You're right. But every time I see them, I can't help but think of the betrayals. Clara reached over and covered his hand. Then don't look away. Look around and see the people who still care about you. Marcus met her eye to eye, noticing for the first time the concern in her eyes. This sincere gaze reminded him of the trust he had lost. But this time, what he felt was healing. Are you free tonight? Marcus asked suddenly. I know a nice restaurant. Clara smiled. Yeah, just what I need for a change of pace. Later that night, in the soft light of the restaurant, Marcus realized he hadn't relaxed like this in a long time. Clara recounted anecdotes about her schooling abroad, her laugh as clear as a mountain stream. So you just lost the paper? Marcus couldn't help himself. Yes. Clara spread her hands exaggeratedly. That's what I've been working on for a month. Just then, Marcus' cell phone vibrated again. It's a news item, Nathan's arrest in Mexico. But this time, Marcus didn't click on it. Clara noticed his hesitation. News? Yes. Marcus snapped his cell phone to the table. But it's not important. Clara nodded approvingly. That's the Marcus I know. The night air was cool as I walked out of the restaurant. Clara naturally took Marcus' arm. Want to go for a walk on the beach? On a bench on the beach, Marcus tells his story. In the moonlight, Clara listened quietly, occasionally gently holding his hand for comfort. You know what? Clara said, sometimes God closes a door just to open a window for us. Marcus looked at the side of her face, and a warmth welled up in his heart. Maybe Clara's right. The best revenge isn't to just destroy, but to rebuild your happiness. The next morning, Marcus deleted all news subscriptions related to Isabella and Nathan. When he walked into his office, there was an extra cup of steaming coffee on his desk next to a note Clara had left. Remember, move on? Marcus smiled, the first heartfelt smile in months. He turned on his computer and started working on his work. The sun was shining outside the window, and a new day had begun. Over the next few days, Marcus gradually discovers the good things in life. Early morning runs, the smell of coffee in the afternoon, dinners with Clara, weekend movies. These simple routines allowed him to rediscover the meaning of life. Marcus has been able to calmly skim over the Isabella news when it resurfaces. The thrill of revenge is ultimately no match for inner peace. Clara taught him that true victory is not about beating your opponent, but about surpassing yourself. Want to go to a painting show tomorrow? Clara asked him in a message one evening. Marcus looked at his cell phone screen, the corners of his mouth lifting. The wounds that were once there are healing and new stories are being written. This time, he chose to believe in love because he knew that sincere hearts would always meet. A year later, in the fall, invitations were sent out for Marcus and Clara's wedding. Right in the middle of the busy days of preparing for the wedding, Marcus receives an unexpected visitor. Isabella's downstairs. The call came from the front desk. She insists on seeing you. Marcus put down the papers in his hand and glanced at the picture frame Clara had given him on his desk. Let her up. When Isabella walks into the office, Marcus barely recognizes her. The once glamorous investment bank manager is now haggard, with her high-fashion suit replaced by a plain maxi dress and her delicate makeup gone. It's been a long time, Marcus. Isabella's voice was a little husky. Marcus gestured for her to sit down. Can I help you? Isabella's fingers twisted together. I need help. Nathan took all my savings and now I can't find a job and my bank account is at the bottom. So? Marcus' tone was calm. I know I'm in no position to ask for your forgiveness. Isabella bowed her head. But I'm just desperate. I can't even afford to pay next month's rent. Marcus gazed at the woman in front of him, who had once broken his heart. Where's Nathan? He evaporated after he was arrested in Mexico. Isabella laughed bitterly. All the money is gone. The office fell into silence. Isabella looked around cautiously, her eyes stopping on the picture frame on Marcus' desk. I see you're getting married. she said softly. And she seems like a nice girl. Yes, Clara was great, Marcus said. She taught me that living a better life is the best revenge. A flicker of remorse flashed in Isabella's eyes. You've changed, Marcus. One must always move on. Marcus got up and walked towards the window. Like you said in the beginning, some things need to be let go. So, can you help me? Isabella's voice held one last glimmer of hope. Marcus turned to me, his gaze firm and calm. No, Isabella, not because I still hold a grudge against you, but because everyone is responsible for their own choices. This is your life's subject, and it must be faced by you. Isabella's shoulders slumped. I see. She stood up. Happy wedding, Marcus. Isabella, Marcus said as she turned to leave, I hope you learned something from this experience. Isabella stopped in the doorway and didn't look back. I've learned, at the cost of losing someone who really loves me. The office door closed softly and Isabella's footsteps faded away. Marcus stood at the window and watched her forlorn figure disappear around the corner. Okay. Clara's voice came from the doorway. She had been standing there at some point. Marcus turned and opened his arms as Clara stepped into his embrace. You're doing the right thing, honey. Sometimes the best way to help someone is to let them grow on their own. I know, Marcus kissed her forehead. Thank you for making me realize that. 2 months later, Marcus and Clara's wedding took place on the beach. As they exchanged rings, the sunlight poured down on the bride's white gown, reflecting the light of happiness. I pronounce you husband and wife. The priest's voice was solemn and warm. And may your love last forever. Marcus looked at Clara's bright smile, and infinite tenderness welled up in his heart. What was once a wound has healed, and new happiness is blossoming. That's the best ending. Not cold revenge, but finding love that is truly worth cherishing. At the wedding after party, Marcus raised his champagne to new life. Clara clinked glasses with him, tears of happiness shining in her eyes. As night falls and the ocean breeze gently blows, Marcus strolls along the beach with his arm around Clara. In the distance, a lighthouse sheds its light out to sea, like hope guiding the way ahead. What's on your mind? Clara asked as she snuggled into his arms. Thinking about our future, Marcus smiled. And everything the past has taught me. The past has allowed us to grow, Clara says, but the future has us looking forward. Marcus gazed out over the sparkling sea, his heart rising with infinite gratitude. Life gave him a second chance to meet the true love of his life. Isabella's betrayal had made him realize the darkness of human nature, but Clara's sincerity made him believe in the beauty of love again. This is revenge at its best. When the betrayer is lost in his own choices, he has found the path to happiness. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.